Welcome, welcome. I think I'm live. I have made what I believe is yet another improvement to the streaming setup, and I think that the audio video sync issue should be even less of an issue today. Maybe. Let me know if that's not the case. I am going to be focusing on the Republican faceplant, an absolute and total embarrassment. Republicans unable not only to repeal the Affordable Care Act known as Obamacare, but unable to pass Republicare slash Ryan Care slash Trump Care, also known as the American Health Care Act. So I'll be digging into that. I'm going to deal first with the sort of political side of it, and then dig into some of the more logistical side of what would actually make sense to change about the healthcare system that we have now, and what sort of didn't make sense about the AHA. Super Chat is on. Feel free to use it. I will, of course, be doing live shout outs and thank yous to new members that sign up at davidpakman.com/membership throughout the live stream. And it's all happening. What else can I tell you? I will be talking about some of the discussion about what happened with healthcare on our Reddit discussion forum, which you can pull up at davidpakman.com/Reddit, and a lot of different things. So first things first, we had 60 or more House votes from Republicans during President Obama's administration to repeal the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We knew it wasn't going to happen. It was pointless. It was symbolic. It was so that Republicans could go to their constituents and say, hey, I voted to repeal Obamacare, and at my first opportunity, I'm going to make sure it is repealed. I did my piece. 7 years they had to come up with, honestly, almost any reasonable replacement to Obamacare. Almost anything that was reasonable could have gotten a vote to happen and successfully repealing the Affordable Care Act. They had 7 years. Or if you say, listen, David, 7 years, fine. Different people are in power now. We have to look at what could they have done from November 9th forward. It's been months since November 9th. Or you say, okay, listen, even forget about November 9th. They had since January 20th. You're telling me that in 64 days, this is the best that they could come up with? It is insane. It is absolutely and utterly insane. And the political loss is one that should impact all Republicans. And this was a campaign promise from Trump. This was a campaign promise from Republicans in the House. This was a campaign promise from Republicans in the Senate. And they couldn't do it. They simply couldn't do it. And it's a major mistake. It's a major bungling. It's part of a disastrous week for Donald Trump, and I've talked about that as well. The political repercussions, I don't know what they will be yet. I don't know what the political repercussions are going to be. But the problem, if you wanted to see Obamacare repealed, it didn't happen. You would think that as a voter, you would be dissatisfied. At the same time, there's so much of a misunderstanding among Republicans and some Democrats as well and independents, but particularly among anti-Obamacare Republicans about what is the situation today because of Obamacare. How much of what we see going on, like, for example, increase in premium prices, can be attributed to Obamacare? How much would be going on anyway? I will deal with that in the second part here when we talk about some of the realities about health insurance. And it's not totally clear to me that the Republicans are really going to get it. Case in point, there's a really interesting story on the YouTube channel, which I encourage you to check out after the stream, about a woman who learned that her son, who lost his job, has recently seen a significant decrease in the amount that he pays for health insurance. And the mom was asked, to what do you attribute your son's newly low insurance price now that he lost his job? And she said, I thank Trump Care, which of course doesn't exist. It hasn't passed. The truth is it's because of Obamacare that this woman's son actually is saving money on health insurance. So, the political repercussions remain to be seen. At minimum, this is a very specific campaign promise, which is not, at least for the foreseeable future, going to be met. And, already there are reports that Donald Trump today signed off on approval for the Keystone XL pipeline. What are the distractions? What are the real things we should be paying attention to, et cetera, et cetera? We'll talk about Keystone XL on Monday, and that's going to be an issue. And we've talked about some of these symbolic executive orders from Donald Trump and the ones that aren't symbolic. Of course, the biggest, the travel ban, which now in 2 different forms has been stopped by judges. But this is a major and a shameful faceplant for Republicans. Now, the next question, of course, is as progressives, while we can be glad that the AHA didn't repeal the ACA, we don't have to simultaneously pretend like the ACA is this beacon of progressive healthcare delivery to citizens. It's not, and I'm going to dig into that in a little bit, okay? Let me pause before getting into some of the specifics of ACA, AHA, premiums, health insurance, etc. We've got a bunch of super chats. We've got a bunch of people who have just signed up for membership. So first and foremost, big thank you to Renato Martinez, as well as Wendy Ross and Beverly Hefter, all 3 of whom just signed up for membership at davidpakman.com/membership. We're viewer-supported media. I am very clear about that. Our number one funding source is when people like you, not some other random people that we don't know who they are, but when folks like you go to davidpakman.com/membership and sign up, that is the primary funding source for the show. And we do have a coupon code available. I might have mentioned this once or twice before. I voted 17. All one word, all lowercase. Use the coupon code when you sign up. You'll get 40% off. Let's start with a few super chats that are going on. We have a $10 Canadian super chat from Floppy Kid, who says, Trump is certainly not a negotiator. The question is, does he still possess the bully pulpit to push through this probably reworded healthcare bill at a later date? His approval ratings are tanked. Yeah, speaking of which, I'm going to pull up the latest 3-day rolling average Gallup presidential tracking poll, which bottomed out for Trump at 37 earlier in the week. And it has recovered to 41 as of yesterday, but we will see what this does. I've made a note to look at the approval rating for Trump on Monday. Actually, probably Tuesday if it's a 3-day rolling average, to really get a better impression of what this does. To the other question, does he still possess the bully pulpit to push this through? Listen, Trump went on record and he said something along the lines of, if you vote against this, I will make it so that you lose your seat. And if you vote for this, I will make this so that you keep your seat in 2018. Clearly it didn't work. So if that is how we evaluate whether Trump has or doesn't have the bully pulpit, then he has lost the bully pulpit, all right? $15 super chat from Frank McWright. Most of the criticism I get from friends about the ACA is the cost. I often remind them that Obama didn't put a sticker price on it. Isn't it the insurance companies running up the costs for profit? Let me put a pause on that, Frank, because I'm going to deal with that in a second. Okay, I'm going to deal with exactly that. And a $5 super chat follow-up from Frank McWright. I think Republicans only wanted Obama to fail. It doesn't seem like they ever really cared about the healthcare system. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's sort of dig into that now, okay? So the realities about the Affordable Care Act and what the replacement was. Let's start with the Affordable Care Act. I've been a critic of the Affordable Care Act for the areas where it deserves criticism. The Affordable Care Act further ingrained the for-profit insurance system as the default in the United States. The Affordable Care Act mandated tens of millions of new customers for for-profit insurance companies. And it also strengthened this idea that the default is the employer-employee relationship for health insurance. And if you're outside of that, then there's this other system which we're going to create, which it's not the most straightforward system. It's not the one that creates the best relationship between individuals and the government and those insured and their employer. Okay, so the Affordable Care Act did many good things, but there are many criticisms to be had. The good things that the Affordable Care Act did, mathematically, if you understand actuarial tables, risk pools, etc., you understand that If you have a self-selection bias in terms of who chooses to be insured, that has a major, big league, you could call it, effect on what health insurance costs. For example, if health insurance is optional, then you are going to have a situation where the average health of those who choose to get health insurance is going to be worse than the average health of the total population. As a result, in order to ensure that the health insurance companies are profitable, meaning that they are paying out less in medical services than they take in premiums, the premium paid is going to necessarily have to be higher. This is basic math. Period. I mean, this isn't my opinion. This is just, it goes beyond health insurance. This is sort of how it works. Imagine an auto insurance industry, and there are states where you don't have to have auto insurance, but let's deal with the situation in states, the majority of where you do have to have auto insurance. And I think even in the states where you don't have to have it, it's collision. You may have to have comprehensive in all states, although that doesn't even matter. Don't quote me on that. It doesn't matter. If you say, hey, you only need auto insurance if you want it, right? People who barely drive, who are the least likely to get into accidents in a way, although you might say if they don't drive as much, then they're out of practice. But let's just say the fewer miles you drive, mathematically, you're less likely to get into a car accident. You might choose not to be insured. Those who drive more erratically, people who speed, etc., if they're rational, the way that sort of neoclassical economics tells us people are, they would say, I'm at a higher risk of an accident based on my driving, so I am going to get insurance. This means that your average insured driver has far more driving risk than the average driver in the population. That means your insurance rates are higher, because for the average insured driver, the insurance company is going to likely over the life of the insurance pay out more in claims, and they need to charge more. Exact same thing, okay? Exact same thing when it comes to health insurance. So that's number one. What the Republicans are most against from Obamacare, and this I'm talking about Republican voters, right? They like kids being able to stay on insurance until age 26. They like the ban on blocking people from insurance with pre-existing conditions. Most of this stuff Republicans like. Trump voters like. There's polling. It's not me speculating. They don't like the mandates, right? The mandates are what make the entire thing work. So you can't just get rid of the mandates. If you add to this that even though Obamacare has done some things that we could call moving health insurance to the left, we have a very right-wing status quo in the United States with health insurance. It is a for-profit enterprise. We have this employer-connected situation where most people are getting insurance through their employer. We have very favorable laws in general to the insurance companies in terms of how they can run their businesses. Yes, there's regulations, but by and large, it's a really profitable industry. Health insurance makes a lot of money. So there are changes to be made to health insurance, but if you make changes that would make it more right-wing, like getting rid of the mandate or some of these other changes, you are going to have people lose coverage because they either can't afford it or because it could be taken away, and you are going to have premiums go up. Now, if you are Republicans in 2013, you say, hey, I want to repeal it because it sounds like a government-run thing, even though it's not, and people who are against communism and socialism, who don't understand the first thing about either of those two concepts, are against it. So you say, hey, my constituents don't like it, I'm going to say I'm against it. Now, if you break it, you own it. And it's become very clear to the more reasonable Republicans that the American Health Care Act, as proposed, would result in tens of millions of people losing insurance, and it would lead to premiums going up. It just would. We have a Congressional Budget Office analysis which confirms something like 24 million would lose coverage over the next 10 years. It confirmed that initially premiums would go up. It suggests that in years 8, 9, and 10, premiums may go down relative to the already expected increase that we are seeing. Most people will tell you you can't really project with much accuracy 8 or 10 years out anyway. So it's a disaster. So all of a sudden, you have Obamacare, which was originally a Republican think tank idea. Something very similar to it was enacted here in my state of Massachusetts by the Republican governor Mitt Romney. You have something that has been characterized as a lunatic left plan. It's actually a pretty right-wing thing. The changes to be made are left-wing changes. You sever this employer-employee connection for healthcare. You take healthcare out of the for-profit world. You look at expanding Medicare or a single-payer system or universal healthcare administered by the government. Those are the changes to be made that would actually improve the situation. And you're a Republican, and now you figure out, hey, you know what? The plan we've proposed will be our death electorally because it is an absolute and utter train wreck. They won't all say this. I was watching Jack Kingston on CNN talk about how, Obamacare is in a death spiral, premiums up, blah, 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 blah. The reality is, if the worst possible scenario were Obamacare, you would have seen Obamacare repealed today or yesterday, rather than no vote at all and this entire thing dead in the water. Last thing I want to say on this, and I see that there's super chats and a bunch of stuff that I want to get to here. Premiums going up. Republicans continue to talk about premiums are up under Obamacare. You need, if you've been just chatting or trolling or not paying attention up until this point, this is such a key thing for when people want to talk to you about this, okay? When people say premiums are up under Obamacare, therefore Obamacare is bad. A couple really important things to understand and distinguish. Number one, when people say premiums are up under Obamacare, you need to distinguish the non-Obamacare plans and the Obamacare plans, because premium prices have not changed in parallel between non-Obamacare plans and Obamacare plans. That's number one. Of what use is it to say premiums are up? Further, premiums have been rising in the United States for a very, very long time. Part of it is even just for inflation adjustment, premiums are going to go up. That's number one. And number two, what we need to see is, did the Obamacare premiums increase more or less than overall premiums? And how does that compare with the pre-Affordable Care Act projections? As you can already see, this is way more nuance than most Republicans care for. And this is not the line of reasoning that gets you to 60 votes to repeal Obamacare under President Obama's White House, and then all of a sudden losing 100% of all momentum now with blame. This is Ryan care. This is Trump care. Paul Ryan decided to cancel the vote. Well, no, Trump told Ryan to cancel the vote, blah, 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 blah. So you've got to understand this stuff. You really, really do, because it's so key to even, if you don't understand the problem, how are you going to fix it? And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Trump's administration, by and large, in days 1 through 64, has been solutions that don't work to problems that don't exist. And if you don't really understand the problem, it's going to be hard to fix it. Okay, let me get in a second to Super Chat. I want to send a big thank you to Sonia Gray, who just signed up as a David Pakman Show member. Thanks to Cynthia Turney. And thank you also to Capiz Green. All three of whom just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. There's a coupon code which saves you 40%. You get all the benefits. We do commercial-free audio and video streams of the show. We do a daily bonus show just for our paid subscribers. We do exclusive members-only sort of like town hall meetings with our members, usually quarterly, roughly every 3 to 4 months, and lots of other really great stuff. So please sign up, davidpakman.com/membership. If you want a discount, by all means have the discount. I voted 17, all one word, all lowercase, will save you 40% off of membership. And if you sign up, please, I think you'll find this entertaining. The March 21st bonus show, I tell what is called now infamously the St. Patrick's Day public urination story. People are enjoying that. It's fun. But we also talk about lots of other stuff on the bonus show. All right. Thanks to Shannon Stokely for sending a $2 super chat. No question or comment. There's a $2 Canadian super chat from Floppy Kid, who says, how do you think Ryan will do out of all this? Paul Ryan is very good at weathering political storms, and he is going to point to Donald Trump having been involved in the writing of this bill and having decided, having told Ryan allegedly to pull the vote, not to do the vote. I don't know that Paul Ryan specifically is going to have electoral repercussions, but generally I wouldn't anticipate a particularly high approval rating for Republicans in Congress anytime soon. Felipe Garcia sent a $2 super chat saying, premiums are up, rate of change is down. Right, so this is sort of what I was alluding to, which is just saying premiums have continued to rise over the last 7 years, thus Obamacare failed at everything it was meant to do. You have to look at, are premiums rising more slowly? And this is, there's a really, let me see if I can find the subject, the title, debt deficit. I did a story a little while back, something like, do you understand the difference between debt and deficit? I'm trying to see what the, you know what, I'm not finding, yeah, I don't find it exactly, but I explained that the national debt, many people don't, they talk about Obama blew up the debt, or George W. Bush didn't, or whatever, right? Whatever lie you have these days. The debt is the total amount of debt at any given time, whereas the deficit is the amount by which spending exceeds revenues in a particular year. So if you end a year with $100 debt, and then the next year you reduce the deficit from the $100 to $50, your deficit is $50. You've reduced the deficit by 50%, but your debt still goes from $100 to $150. So the debt can go up while the deficit has gone down. This is what we're talking about, rates of change, rate of growth or reduction that Felipe astutely pointed out. This is basic stuff. You know, if you don't get this, you really have no business discussing any of these issues because you just lack the basic tools needed to even have a reasonable conversation. $5 super chat from CG, saying, just putting it out there, contrary to what Trump advertised while campaigning, I've never been more energized by all the losing going on. Courtney G. Yeah, Trump talked about all the winning that he was going to do. Tell me one win. Seriously, tell me one win that benefits the average American that we've seen so far under Donald Trump. Jeff, the God of Biscuits, has sent a $2 super chat saying, please clap. There you go. Hope that suffices. Of course, referencing Jeb Bush in maybe the most pathetic moment of his relatively short-lived presidential campaign, having to ask a room of people to clap because they didn't realize that an applause line was an applause line because Jeb was, as Donald Trump said, low energy. Low energy. Okay, so I talked about the premium aspect of this. So what's next as far as, but by the way, to catch you up, if you've just joined, we have been talking about the faceplant of Republicans in trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act as well as replace it with the American Health Care Act. It was an absolute disastrous 48 hours for Donald Trump, and for Republicans, it has not gone well. We've been talking about the political implications. I've been talking about sort of more of the logistical issues with healthcare as currently arranged, and we've been taking questions, et cetera, et cetera. I'll remind you, if you do sign up for membership during the stream at davidpakman.com/membership, I will be doing live thank yous and shout outs for people. I've got a couple more to do in a second, but I'm going to wait. I have a few other things I want to mention. And of course, Super Chat is on and available. So a few other thoughts on, let's talk now about what's next, right? Is Trump going to get involved in just rewriting another version of replacement to the Affordable Care Act? Probably there's going to be another version. We already have empirical evidence to tell us that when the Trump administration does a redo, it doesn't always go well. Immigration ban from majority Muslim countries, number one, was taken down by multiple levels of judicial decisions. Version 2 was put out there, and that also is suspended. So redos are not necessarily the calls to victory for Donald Trump, but you will likely see something. Now, there's another sort of version. Some Republicans are more interested in, let's just repeal Obamacare. And then we'll figure out what the replacement should be. Just give us a vote to repeal Obamacare. And, the more sensible Republicans realize that if you do that, number one, you leave so many people in a limbo that would be disastrous, not only for them personally, but it would be disastrous politically. It would be disastrous economically. Major, major bungling to just say, let's repeal Obamacare and then figure it out later. So the more pragmatic Republicans realize that you can't really do that. There's another possibility, which is the fix Obamacare approach, which is forget about repeal and replace. Millions of people are now in the situation they're in because of the Affordable Care Act. And what we're going to do is fix it. Now, how you do that in a way that actually expands access and reduces premiums, I don't really know. We're close to the point. Public option, right? Public option would be something, but Republicans aren't going to do the public option. If they've been campaigning on repeal and they have to go to fix, they're not going to do the public option. But beyond the public option, there's not that much you can do only to Obamacare without restructuring the broader problems that we have in our healthcare system to reduce prices and expand access. That's sort of the reality right now. We have a $7.48 super chat from BW85 saying, play the drums for us during a live stream someday. Yeah, people seeing my practice pad back there and my snare drum. Unfortunately, because I live in an apartment, I can't have more than this, which I have 3 practice pads on it to really silence the snare drum as much as possible. Yeah, I don't want to drag it over right now. But I'll do that. I'll do a little snare routine at some point. By the way, I do want to mention, last time on the stream, people pointed out that I've had the same piece of art of mine back there for every stream for like a month and a half, and that's because I just hadn't really been doing any painting, and I promised after the last stream, and I said I would post it to Instagram as well. By the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, david.pacman. I said by the next time I would have a new piece up, and I now do. This is what I would call a nighttime mountain scene, and that was done with only 2 colors. That was done with titanium white and Mars black, and basically creating 3 colors, creating the gray and then the black and then the white. I'm terrible at this, obviously, but hey, I did it. I did another painting, and that is something I think we can all be thankful for. Jennifer Carrain has sent a $5 super chat saying, I'm glad this is happening, but while we're focused on healthcare, what other damage are the Republicans doing? A lot. And I already talked, Jennifer, about how today Donald Trump signed off on the passage, the approval of the Keystone XL pipeline. And let me see if I have an article in front of me. I don't. But yes, it's really, we're in a time of a crescendo of scandal. When we talk about Russia, healthcare bill is dead, countless campaign lies, Trump's daughter is now working in the White House. It's embarrassment after embarrassment. But Republicans are actually doing stuff. And I've done a bunch of segments where I do a list of bills that I won't redo it now because I've done it a number of times now. A number of bills that Republicans have either passed in the House and Senate or just in the House, or that have been proposed and are well on their way. It's important not to lose sight of that. We've been covering it, and we're going to continue covering it. So a really, really good point. Absolutely, Jennifer. $5 Canadian dollar super chat from Floppy Kid. Is the Affordable Care Act not highly beneficial for insurance companies in the U.S.? Would a range of their private interests not be ardently trying to keep it in situ? Yeah, I said this. This was one of my, when I did earlier in the stream, my criticisms of the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act gave and continues to ensure tens of millions of new customers to for-profit insurance companies. The insurance companies say that they don't really make much money off of those plans. But remember that insurance companies are already mandated on all plans to pay out certain percentages of premiums that come in on health benefits. So it's not a very solid argument. And yes, this is tens of millions of new customers for these for-profit insurance companies. Jeff, the God of Biscuits, sent a $2 super chat saying, Trump primaried in 2020? If so, by whom? I've been consistent on this on both the Democratic and the Republican side. I think this is not the time to be dealing with that. Let's wait and see if Trump makes it to 2020, okay, before we start thinking about that. $5 super chat from Edward Hill. Edward says, the Democrats must increase subsidies to middle-class people with the Affordable Care Act to show solutions are plausible. If not, the Dems will blow a huge opportunity. How can Democrats at this point pass more subsidies for health insurance when they don't have the White House, the House, or the Senate? I understand the idea. At the same time, subsidies don't truly address the cost of health care. You know, if something costs $1,000 and it's subsidized by $500 by the government, it still costs $1,000. It doesn't cost you $1,000. It's a big piece of Obamacare. I don't know that alone is the approach that I would recommend Democrats take. Courtney Haynes sent a $5 super chat. She says, are we exaggerating how much of an epic failure Trump has been so far? Historically, can you think of a worse start to a presidency? No, I don't think that. I believe that because of the normalization that's going on, where every day we wake up and Trump did some crazy thing on Twitter, every day we wake up and there's more of a tie between Donald Trump's associates and Russia, we are suffering the effects of normalization. And as a result, we are understating how much of an epic failure and just an exposition of lie after campaign lie Trump's administration has been so far. So I think it's quite the opposite, Courtney. And your second question is the one that I think is the good one. They're both good, but what I mean is the one that really drives home the key aspect of what our perspective should be. Can you think of a worse start to a presidency? It is difficult to do that. And lastly, a $2 super chat from Corey Tracy. No comment or question there. So thank you very much. Let me also send a thank you to Andrew Traeger. Andrew Traeger signed up for a David Pakman Show membership on our website, davidpakman.com/membership, using the coupon code I voted 17. That saves you 40%. I mentioned this at the beginning of the month, beginning of March. I mentioned that in February, I didn't really do it, you set a record for the show of 523 new paid subscribers to the show. Shortest month of the year, February. Historical record back to April of 2010, which is when the membership program started. Blowing out of the water the prior record of 200-something new members. Okay, so 523 new members last month. We are on track to be probably not surpassing that this month. Last month was just crazy. But we are on track to maybe be around 400 or 450 new paid subscribers this month, thanks to you. And this is what's going to allow us to keep growing. We are in the final stages of a potential new hire for the David Pakman Show that is going to be doing a lot to continue growing what we're doing and growing the activism side of the show, and growing the social media presence of the show and production value and so many other things. I am working, as some of you know, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show, Benjamin Dixon, produces his show out of our studio. And Ben and I are both very interested in continuing to improve the production value of the show. Ben and I have been working diligently on some changes to the studio that are coming up. We spent several hours in studio today with it was just a technical day. Okay, so just improving the look of the show. On Monday, you will notice a further improved show. And over the next 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to see some drastic improvements to the show. All of this stuff happens because of your support, okay? So please don't write off. I often say about half of 1% of our audience are paid subscribers. Okay, half of 1%. And it's still the number one funding source for the show. If we were able to merely get to 1.5% of our audience being paid subscribers, what we would be able to do is out of this world. Okay, so consider yourself one of the 0.5%. It's hard to get into the 1% in the United States, the 1% we hear about on the news. It's very easy to get into the 0.5 of 1%, the half of 1% on the David Pakman Show. All you have to do is sign up at davidpakman.com/membership, and we do have the coupon code I voted 17. A few of the things that are happening. So there's been breaking news. Seems to blow up our discussion forum on Reddit, davidpakman.com/Reddit, and a few of the interesting stories that caught my eye there as I was getting ready to start this live stream. Number one, there's a video supposedly of Alex Jones apologizing for perpetuating Pizzagate and then inviting James Alefantis on the show. I have not watched it yet. It seems compelling, and I try to get 3 to 5 minutes of Alex Jones a day just to see what kind of crazy is going on over there. There are a number of posts, 1, 2, 3, many posts about the American Health Care Act's failure today, and I encourage you to jump on and participate in those discussions. I recently did a sort of side-by-side 30-minute discussion with the host of Secular Talk, Kyle Kolinsky, and we talked about a Vice article that was basically saying the left has no presence on YouTube and the right's killing the left on YouTube. And people seem to like it. There's a thread saying, who else wants more of David and Kyle Kolinsky? I encourage you to take a look at that. Make your opinion known on that issue. A number of posts about Obamacare. There's a thread which is thanking me for not going what is being described as full Rubin report and pandering to the alt-right. I'm hoping to... So Dave Rubin's a friend of mine, and we're in touch with some regularity. I'm hoping to line up a conversation sooner than later with Dave Rubin. And in fact, we were just texting, and I told him, the way I said to him what I think we should do, let me pull it up here. I said to him, I think it would be great if we did a segment where we address where we agree and disagree on progressivism, classic liberalism, which Dave now says that he feels like he is more under the classical liberal umbrella, etc., that I think it would do really well. And we're going to try to line that up, okay? And but a lot of people come to our subreddit and they post about Dave Rubin, which is interesting. There's also a meme related to durian, and as some of you may or may not remember, on former producer Lewis's last show, because he had a fixation with this fruit called durian, we tried durian in studio. You can check it out. And now there are memes. There are memes related to durian on the David Pakman Show subreddit. So check it out, davidpakman.com/REDDIT. The moderators are doing a great job. Trolling is pretty minimal right now, I would say, on the David Pakman Show Reddit. I don't know if it's because not that many people are banned. I mean, I think it's that people are just not trying it because moderation is just being done in such a professional and prolific way. So that's what's going on there. Lyle Frappier says, sent a super chat asking whether I Vote 17 will be available next week. Let me be super clear. It's I Voted 17, and it will be available next week. Absolutely. We have a 5. I don't know what currency this is. It says $5. I don't know what currency that is. We have a super chat from Esquerdista saying, thoughts on the recent UN report claiming 1.7 million Palestinians who are full citizens of Israel but live under martial law are subjected to oppression? No, I've not. I have that bookmarked. I have not read it. I also have bookmarked, there was a UN report that was also retracted, and I don't know if that's the same one that this user is talking about, but I don't know. I wouldn't be able to comment on that right now. We've got a $5 super chat from Capiz Green saying, we need is a Congress who cares more about doing what's right for the American people rather than making deals. No clue, inept moron in the White House. I saw a really good guest on CNN today. CNN sort of started scrambling. They weren't sure if they should have allowed this or not, but there was a guest who was saying, hey, listen, Trump didn't write Art of the Deal, which he cites as one of his great accomplishments. It was actually written by a ghostwriter, Tony Schwartz, who, by the way, has come out with some of the most damning exposés on Trump that we've ever seen. That's number one. But further, this guest, whose name escapes me on CNN, was saying that Trump isn't actually even that great of a business deal maker. That, as we found out from the deposition videos of Trump, he doesn't read the leases and many of the other contracts that he signs. Other people hand it to him and he signs it. And it turns out that a lot of the earlier business deals that Trump was actually negotiating failed miserably, and that most of what you would call the successful Trump business deals were not actually negotiated by Trump. They were negotiated by other people working for Trump. So even sort of like the main thesis of the main argument for Trump's campaign, which is he makes deals and he'll make them as an elected official, doesn't actually seem like he was ever that great at making deals. So very good point. $5 super chat from Jerry Hickle, who says, any opinion on whether drug price control is possible without full government-controlled healthcare? Yes, you can have drug price control without full government-controlled healthcare. The thing is, it's much more, what am I trying to say? You need more regulations to control drug prices when you don't have a government healthcare system in this sense. When you have a government healthcare system, you effectively have one major buyer of pharmaceuticals. And generally speaking, economies of scale, the more you buy, the more you can negotiate better prices. And you can control drug prices via regulations, but and Donald Trump claimed he was going to do it. I mean, this is one of the first things that after he met with pharma lobbyists after being elected, he backed off on and said, yeah, we're actually not going to do that. But you can do it, and Trump said he would do it. He's not going to. But one of the best ways is when you look at countries that they're buying at the country level as opposed to individual for-profit entities that are doing the purchasing, that is a really solid way to be negotiating prices. Because, hey, you want to be in our country? Yeah, we're buying all the drugs. What kind of a price can you give us? And that is pretty damn effective, no doubt about it. Let me send out a few more thank yous. I don't know. Yes, I didn't yet thank Lester Williams, who signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Big thank you to Graham Doomdai, who signed up, or Dumdai, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, who signed up at davidpakman.com/membership using the 40% coupon code I voted 17. Julie Morgan has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, also using the coupon code I voted 17. And Steph Neal, or Steph Neal has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, also using the coupon code I voted 17. We're talking about $3.60 a month paid monthly if you use the coupon code, or only $3 a month if you pay for the entire year at once using the coupon code I voted 17. Real quick, Monday, on the Monday's show, I can already tell that most of what I'm about to tell you is going to go right out the window because this is going to be a big news weekend. But I do have a bunch of stories I'm sort of, as of now, planning to talk to you about on Monday. We're going to talk about the House Intelligence Committee's open hearing into Russia-Trump connections has been canceled, and at least some Democrats are furious about it. We will update Trump approval numbers as a result of the latest debacle, although we might have to wait until Tuesday or maybe even Wednesday to really get numbers that reflect what happened today. I'm going to talk about, how can I even explain this? I'm going to do a commentary on the reaction we're seeing from some to the London terrorist attack that took place 2 days ago. I have some thoughts on that. There is a white supremacist accused of murder who says he went to New York City specifically to kill black people, and that there were more black people he would have killed had he not been arrested by police. Not getting a lot of coverage. We are going to be covering it. Also, there's this major story, and people in the chat, I've noticed, have talked about this. The Senate has voted to let your internet service provider sell your web browsing history to advertisers. Okay? Let me say it a different way. The browsing history that you have in your browser, which you can clear when you want from your browser, can now, based on a Senate vote, be sold by your internet service provider, be it Comcast, whoever, to advertisers. We're going to be talking about that. Absolutely, we are going to be talking about that. So it's going to be a big show. A few other super chats here. DW Washburn says, David, was being left-handed growing up tough for you at times? Examples if you can think of any. Not really. You know, the toughest thing for me was using those left-handed scissors as a kid. Couldn't cut anything. I do not understand left-handed scissors. I have always used right-handed scissors and just held them with my left hand. I did fine. No big deal. But no, I can't really think of any ways that being left-handed was difficult. I mean, the one thing is, you know, writing as a kid, especially when you're in school and you use pencil, when you write in English, where you write left to right, you smudge. So I would come home and my entire hand would be silver. But this is a pretty minor problem in the grand scheme of things, right? Right, DW, I think. But that was not a problem, interestingly enough, when learning Hebrew, because it's right to left. Hebrew is built for lefties. Anyway, so little story there. Capiz Green sent a $5 super chat saying, there is plenty of evidence about the cockroach's indebtedness to Russia and the Russian mob. Your thoughts? Name is pronounced Copy. Oh, okay. Copy Green. Copy Green. I think this is the third time I've mispronounced it so far on the stream. Copy Green has a question about connections to the mob. Yeah, we covered the Trump connections to the Russian mob and American mobsters as well. I assume, by the way, the cockroach is Trump. If I'm mistaken on that, I apologize. We talked about that. I mean, I think now that the biggest thing is the collusion. There are multiple overlapping Russia scandals. The biggest one right now is the collusion with respect to the election. So that's sort of where we've been focusing. $5 super chat from Gregory Kaltz, who says, David, I am an inept tech moron in the my house. Thought I would never find live chat. You're the coolest. Greg Kaltz, human non-robot. All right, well, thank you, Robert. Robots and non-robots, all welcome here. All absolutely welcome here. All right, that's going to do it for me today. We will stream again soon, and we've got a great show for you. Please sign up. Also, follow me on Instagram. I'm on there at david.pacman. Throw me a bone.